When fitting a multiple regression model, the presence of multicollinearity is a serious problem. By multicollinearity, we mean that one or more than one explanatory variables involved in a multiple regression model are highly correlated to one another. In this module, we will discuss using a numerical example how multicollinearity affects the fit of a multiple regression model, and we will also look at the values of the correlation coefficient between several explanatory variables that might give us a hint of the presence of this problem, which is a violation of one of the assumptions of a linear model. In the previous modules, we have discussed the classical normal linear regression model assumptions. Some of those assumptions were the absence of multicollinearity, the presence of homoscedasticity, autocorrelation not present in successive error terms, as well as normality of the errors. The most common of these assumptions were the normality of errors, no multicollinearity, no heteroscedasticity, and the absence of autocorrelation. We have discussed the consequences of departure from one or more of these assumptions in detail in some other modules. We had also dedicated modules on the discussion of methods to detect the departure from assumption, as well as ways to remedy the situation when one or more of these assumptions are violated. In this module, we will solely discuss two numerical problems related to multicollinearity and the presence of serial autocorrelation. So let us look at the first case, which is multicollinearity. Multicollinearity is a problem which occurs when one of the columns of the X matrix is exactly or nearly a linear combination of the other columns. And let me elaborate on that. In case of multiple regression, we have several explanatory variables. And in case of writing it in the form of a linear model, we write y equals x beta plus epsilon, where x is the matrix which has the columns equal to the explanatory variables and beta is our vector of regression coefficients. So in case of multicollinearity, there are two or more explanatory variables which are exactly or nearly a linear combination of the others. In other words, what we have previously mentioned, multicollinearity occurs when one of the columns of X is exactly or nearly a linear combination of the other columns. Exact multicollinearity is, however, rare, but it can sometimes happen. For example, if we include a dummy variable for male and another one for female, and in addition to that we have a column of ones. In normal multiple regression model, we usually have an intercept term, and in case of the X matrix, which consists of the values of the different explanatory variables, we have one column which is dedicated to the value of the explanatory variable in the model when we are talking about the intercept, which is beta 0. Since we have no x values attached to beta 0, we have that dedicated column as 1. Now, in case there is a dummy variable in addition to the explanatory variables in my model, in such cases, everywhere when the gender of the person is male, we have 1, and another dummy variable is when we have a female and we have 1. And in addition to this dummy variable, if we also have the intercept variable included in our model, then we have two of these columns which, when taken together in addition, that becomes same as the 1, or in other words, the column of ones can be written as a linear combination of the two dummy variable columns. So more typically, multicollinearity is exact in such cases. However, multicollinearity in most real cases will be approximate. It arises from the fact that our explanatory variables are correlated with each other, although the correlation is not exact. So in case of explanatory variables which are approximately correlated highly with each other, that is, they essentially measure the same thing, we need to think of ways of retaining one of the explanatory variable and removing the other so that we can get rid of multicollinearity. For example, if we try to describe consumption in household as the dependent variable y in terms of income, which is x1, and net worth, which is x2, then it will be hard to identify the separate effects of x1 and x2 on y. As you can see, the two x variables in terms of income as well as net worth, they are highly correlated to one another. So when we include both of them in the model, then it is difficult to identify or segregate the effect of one from the other on y. The estimated regression coefficient beta 1 and beta 2 will be hard to interpret in such cases. Now the variance of beta 1 and beta 2 will be very large in case of multicollinearity. So the corresponding t statistic, which is nothing but the estimate of the beta divided by the standard errors, that will tend to be insignificant because we are dividing by a very large number, which is the standard error. Even though the F test statistic for the overall fit of the model might tell us that the model is significant, even then the t test statistic, which is insignificant, tells us that the two regression explanatory variables that we have added are not significant to the model. So further, the coefficient of x1 and the corresponding t statistic may change dramatically if the seemingly insignificant variable x2 is deleted from the model. What happens is, since x1 and x2 are correlated to one another due to the presence of multicollinearity, when we remove one or when we delete one, then the coefficient of x1, which is beta 1, and its corresponding t statistic, these two values are dramatically changed. So for a numerical example, consider a data set on the monthly sales of backyard satellite antennas, which is denoted by y or the dependent variable. This is observed in 9 randomly selected districts, together with the number of households, which is x1, and the number of owner occupied houses, which is x2 in the district. Now both x1 and x2 are measured in units of 10,000 households. The multiple regression of y on these two x's are fitted, and we see from the results how multicollinearity has affected the estimate of the coefficients corresponding to x1 and x2, and also how it has influenced the testing of hypotheses of the significance of these two variables. So the multiple regression of y on x1 and x2 indicate that neither variable is related linearly to y. However, we get the R square from fitting this model as 0.9279. Now if you want to recall, R square is the correlation coefficient between the observed values of y and the predicted values from the linear model. So the higher the value of R square, or the closer the value of R square to 1, the better is the fit of the model. As we can see from the fit, the regression equation tells us y on x1 and x2 indicates that neither variable x1 nor x2 is linearly related to y. Still, the prediction has been so good that the R square value has turned out to be 0.9279 or 0.93, which is almost as close to 1. And the overall F test is also highly significant, which indicate that at least one of x1 and x2 is linearly related to y. So here on the next slide, this is a tabulated form of the data that was collected from the 9 districts, and now we have used R to fit the multiple linear regression using x1 number of households and x2 owner occupied household as the independent variables, and y as the sales of a satellite antenna as the dependent variable. So the following is the R code. We first define the 3 variables that we have as sales, house and owner, and we name the data set multi using the data frame which contains the values of these 3 variables. Now using the LM function in R, we have fitted a model which models sales on house and owner. Now the output from R is also included here on the next few slides. As we can see, we first call the formula that was used to fit the regression model. We then have the coefficient estimates, which is negative 2.382 for the estimate of beta 0 and 2.402 for the estimate of beta 1 and 1.444 as the estimate of beta 2. Along with the estimate of the coefficients, we also have the standard errors, the t-values to test the hypothesis that the two variables x1 and x2 are significant or not, as well as we have the p-values. Now at a level of significance alpha equals 0.05, we can see from the p-values that both the p-values are greater than the level of significance, which means that the two explanatory variables are not statistically significant because we fail to reject the null hypothesis that beta 1 equals 0 and beta 2 equals 0. Now let us go on and fit a regression model of sales, which is the dependent variable y, on just the first explanatory variable, which is house. So we have also provided in the next slide the R code in order to fit that model using the LM function. And along with the code to fit the model, we have the output. Now this is a very standard output in R when fitting a regression model using the LM function. We have the estimates of the coefficient, standard error, the t-test statistic value as well as the p-values. Now in this case, it is interesting to note that when we only use house as one of the explanatory variables, then the p-value at level of significance 0.05 is significant, which means the inclusion of house in the model is significant. Next, we only select the second explanatory variable, which is owner, and we fit a regression model of sales on this explanatory variable. And again, we notice a similar pattern here from the estimates of the coefficient as well as their corresponding p-values. At level of significance 0.05, we can see that the p-value tells us this owner explanatory variable is also statistically significant. Now since we have got results from the fit of these three models which we have discussed above, since the results tell us that the statistical significance of the two explanatory variables change when taken together as from the time when they were taken separately, we want to look at the correlation between the variables, dependent variable as well as the explanatory variables. To that end, if we use the correlation function in R, then we get as the output the correlation matrix. In this matrix, we can see the correlation coefficient between sales, which is the dependent variable, and house and owner, the two explanatory variables. As we can see, both these explanatory variables are highly correlated with sales. However, if we look at the correlation coefficient between house and owner, which is the first and the second explanatory variable respectively, that is even higher than the correlation between y and the two explanatory variables. Now that we have got this interesting result when we had taken these two explanatory variables together as well as when they are taken separately, that can be attributed to the fact that the correlation coefficient between the two explanatory variables is very high. Due to the presence of multicollinearity, which is depicted by the high correlation between the two explanatory variables, we have come across the results of the outcome from the three models that have been fitted before. In the first case, when both of them were taken together, we have seen that although overall fit is good, but the two test statistics to test the significance of the two explanatory variables, they were insignificant. However, when we had taken them separately, we can see that both the variables have turned out to be significant. The reason why the results of the two test statistics are different from the result of the F test statistic is that collinearity has affected the t-tests by reducing their power. The Pearson correlation coefficient between x1 and x2, which is 0.985, gives us a high collinear relationship between x1 and x2, and this is also the reason why there is a conflicting result from fitting the model using both the variables in the model. A simple regression of y on x1 gives the test statistic of 9.35, while a simple regression of y on x2 had given us a t-test statistic for 8.62, which is also highly significant. Now we note that the R-square values of these two simple regressions, they are 0.9259 and 0.9139 respectively, both of which are almost as high as the multiple R-square for the full model. To recall some of the mathematical insights into the problem of multicollinearity that we have already seen in one of the modules, Let us use the spectral decomposition to write our x prime x matrix inverse as summation I equals 0 to p lambda I raised to the power of -1 times pi prime, where lambda I is the eigenvalue of x prime x and p equals p0, p1, pp is an orthogonal matrix where the columns are eigenvectors of x prime x. So if there is an approximate multicollinearity, then one or more of these lambda i's or eigenvalues will be very close to 0, so that the entries of x dash x inverse equals summation I equals 1 to p lambda I inverse pi prime will be very large, because we are dividing with a very small number lambda I. Now, since variance of each of these regression coefficients is given by sigma u square times x prime x whole inverse jj for the jth regression coefficient, we see that approximate multicollinearity tends to inflate the estimated variance of beta j for one or more of the j's. As a result, the t statistics will tend to be insignificant, as I have pointed out before. So the overall f is not adversely affected by multicollinearity, although the t statistic has been compromised. So it may be significant if none of the individual bj is. It can also be shown that the prediction variance which is incurred in predicting either the response surface or a future value of y at a particular value of the explanatory variable will not be disastrously affected by multicollinearity, as long as the entries obey the same approximate multicollinearity as the columns of x. So keeping in mind though that multicollinearity often arises because we are trying to use too many explanatory variables, this tends to inflate the prediction variance. So although the effect of multicollinearity on the prediction may not be disastrous, we will still typically be able to improve the quality of the predictions by using fewer variables. As long as we use less number of variables in our model, there is less complexity and less number of parameters that we have to estimate. So in my opinion, the best remedy to multicollinearity is to use fewer variables which are statistically significant in the study. This can be achieved by a combination of thinking about the problem, transformation and combination of variables which are available, and the model selection. In the model selection, we have to be careful about which models we retain and which models we discard. Two methods of diagnosing multicollinearity in a given data set are by looking at the Pearson correlation coefficient of all pairs of explanatory variables, as we have done here. Although in this module we have calculated the correlation using R at a later part after fitting the model, what we should actually do is find the Pearson correlation coefficient of all pairs of explanatory variables before we start with fitting of a multiple regression model. So any high correlation should tip us off about the presence of multicollinearity. We should also look at the ratio of the maximum eigenvalue and divided by the lowest eigenvalue of the matrix x dash x, of the largest to the smallest eigenvalues. For those who insist on working with a multicollinear data set, there are biased estimation techniques, for example the ridge regression, which may have a lower mean square error than least square. So they can use those models if they do not want to remove some of the variables from their study. So we have seen in this module using the numerical example and also using R to fit a multiple regression model to a data set where two or more of the explanatory variables were highly correlated to each other. This in turn had affected the estimates of the regression coefficients. And since the regression coefficients were affected, any hypothesis testing which was performed based on the values of these estimates and their standard errors, they were also faulty.